the core of this teaching is for us to accept suffering. And once you accept it, you can develop an attitude of appreciation. Of course, at the beginning is a little bit difficult. As it is stated in Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it says that whatever we encounter, it should not disturb the mind of joyfulness, of joy. So I said the other day, we should have such kind of flexibility. Things could go this way or that way. It's all fine. Just like it is fine if it's raining. If it is fine, it is fine if it is not. If it is fine if I have money, because it is a way to accumulate more merit. If I don't have money, it's also fine because I can practice renunciation. And without money, in fact, it is quite burden-free as well. It is fine if I have health because I can practice more virtuous deeds. It is also fine if I am not healthy because through such suffering, I can practice to sympathize with sentient beings' suffering as well. When we notice our mind is encountering some special changes or going through some special experience, then I think those are all opportunities for us to recognize the nature of samsara. Otherwise, if we were to live in a rather mundane life, maybe it doesn't really help us to develop any courage. We've lived in such a way for the past 10 or 20 years. People have food and have clothes to wear. There's no such appreciation towards life. But once you can go out to buy food, buy vegetables, buy rice even, and during the pandemic lockdown, everyone's in confinement and nobody could go grocery shopping, then at that time you can probably develop some more insights, something very new to you. And this kind of new insights could be very profound. It could be even very long-lasting and making impact for a long period of time. Maybe from a short term, looking at this type of lifestyle is rather quite cruel. However, through it, you can contemplate more deeply into your meaning of life, and into what life is, and into what the nature of this world is. Of course, there are foolish ones who never really contemplate on any of those. Doesn't matter whatever they go through. But for people with a bit of capacity of deep thinking, of capacity of analyzing, once they go through any of those extraordinary events, they can in fact learn or gain the knowledge and wisdom that they couldn't have during mundane lifestyle. So in our life, sometimes things may seem difficult, but after, I think the difficulty, it is really up to you of how to use it. For example, during difficulty, if you collapse, if you give up, if you do so, that really means that you are only a foolish one. But during difficulties, if not only you didn't collapse or give up, you use this difficulty as a new opportunity. You see the side of opportunity in it. Then you can gain new insights or new knowledge from such difficulties. Therefore, whatever happens, we should have happiness. I think majority of time when we're happy, the weather's good, everything's good, then whatever happens is fine. But when we're going through turbulence in our mind, whatever unpleasant things happens, I think as mundane beings, it is very difficult to accept them. but suffering and happiness happens alternatively. This is just very normal. Therefore, we shouldn't give up so easily. We shouldn't be depressed and shouldn't feel that it's hopeless. Shouldn't have the feeling that there's no use of studying the Dharma. I still have so much affliction, so much deluded mind, and then just completely give up. This is in fact unreasonable. This kind of mentality could make your life really miserable and give up all of your effort that you've put in. So, whenever you encounter any difficulties, you should use different perspective to look at it. On one hand, you're encountering that because of your previous karma, and on the other, whatever happens right now, it also depends on the uneven mind due to different causality. But you should still continue to work hard on it. This is quite necessary to contemplate with wisdom. I'm not sure any of you supplicated to the protectors to grant you difficulties. If you did, that's wonderful. If you felt that, well, it doesn't matter if I supplicate or not, this is just a theory, well, maybe some of you would think in such a way, then it wouldn't be beneficial anymore. Now let's continue. When you first begin this training, it is vital to distance yourself from ordinary social activities. Otherwise, caught up in everyday preoccupation and busyness, you will be influenced by all your misguided friends asking questions like, how can you bear to put up with so much suffering, so much humiliation? Besides, the endless worrying about enemies, relatives, and possessions will cloud your awareness and upset our minds beyond all our control, so that we inevitably go astray, sliding into bad habits. Then, on top of this, we will be swept away by all kinds of distracting objects and situations. This is quite important because this is it talks about the way of practicing this teaching. First of all, you should depart from anywhere that is very busy. Let it be a city or in a large crowd or a social environment or so on. We have to depart that kind of busy environment so that we can practice. As beginners, I think especially it is important to find a quiet place to practice, such as monasteries or centers or an arana, which is retreat centers and so on. This is wonderful. But if you really couldn't find a place like that, then in your city, you can stay there, but at least try to cut off the distractions and dedicate your time to contemplate and practice. For beginners, if you have such opportunities to do retreats and then finish your preliminary practices or meditation practices, this is quite necessary. Otherwise, if as Buddhist you only grasp onto theories such as the five treatises or tantras and sutras, whatever teachings you can talk a lot, but if you don't practice them even if you talk even if you can talk really well, it doesn't really help you because they're all theories. Therefore, doesn't matter how many days you've studied it, any tiny bit of the teaching, you should put them into practice. Just as simplest teaching such as the human body is difficult to gain and life is impermanence, all of those most basic in the tantras even, I think It is in fact very, very different for those who've actually contemplated it and those who had never. In terms of the depth and experience, they're completely different. Therefore, it is quite important for us to engage in actual practice. In terms of actual practice, I think in Chinese Buddhism, in Han Buddhism, there are people who would practice in solitary retreats, of course, in huts or caves, but there are also group practice. This is really wonderful. People would sit together, would meditate together, and then there would be a supervisor holding a board that is called a meditation board, that is to spank you when you fall asleep. When meditators are blessed by the meditation board spanking, some of them would get enlightened right away at that moment. It happened before. In the history of Mahayana Buddhism, I think this kinds of different kinds of methods, different kinds of styles of practices are in fact quite important and really wonderful. Therefore, I really encourage the Dharma teachers to lead meditation in groups. At the beginning, it could be a little bit difficult to get used to, but slowly you will understand and you will feel the blessings and you will feel how much insights you will gain from such. When I read into the historical biographies of great masters from Tang Dynasty to Sui Dynasty and so on, from all of those biographies, we can see the great number of masters and practitioners. In fact, they've put lots of efforts into actual practice. Therefore, if we do so as well, I'm sure genuine insights and realization will occur in you as well. So we should also engage ourselves in actual meditation practice. Maybe at the beginning we can practice all together in groups, and then we can practice in class as well to build such habit. This kind of meditation habit is in fact quite good to build when people are at young age. Kids from different places, different regions and countries. There are some young novice and young students. They would start practicing meditation. Some of them, they're too young and they would fall asleep halfway through. But I think it is still a very good habit to practice, to have, especially at a young age. I think this kind of habit would help a person for a whole life, would influence a person's life. Parents could use meditation as a method of education as well. They could educate the kids to be more disciplined and could use it as a time-out method. Anyhow, it is important to practice